Hello? Hello? Testing, testing. Hello? Okay. Great. right, I think we'll get started now. This is the webinar for the Harmony One Makers Liquidity Bounty Program, a collaboration between Hummingbot and Harmony. One second, there seems to be an echo. I'm going to switch over to my headphones. One second. Okay, that should be better. Everyone, welcome to the Harmony One Makers program. So we're gonna do this webinar today to show you guys how the Hummingbot works. Sorry, one second. This is the first time doing this, so we have some technical issues, I guess. Okay, this is much better. So we're doing this today to show you how the Harmony One Maker program works, and really answer a few questions about what is market making, what is Hummingbot, why are we doing this, and then finally I will go over sort of like some strategies and how to install and get started with the One Makers program. First of all, let's see. Great. So let me show you what the agenda is for the webinar. So part one, I'm going to go and answer a few questions. What is Hummingbot? What is market making? How market making generally helps people through the One Makers program. And then how market making helps the Harmony One token, how the One Makers program works generally, and in part two, I'm going to walk through a hands-on demo on how to install Hummingbot, how to run, and finally how to run a couple of strategies with market making, and also a more advanced market making strategy that we developed called cross-exchange market making. And finally, in part three, I'll take Q&A. So if you have any questions, please add them to the comment section on YouTube, and we'll try to get them answered. Great. So let's get started with the first question that we're going to answer today, which is, what is Hummingbot? So Hummingbot is an open source algorithmic trading platform for crypto. We started as a quant fund about 2 years ago. We ran that fund for about a year. So we have a good amount of experience with developing algorithms and also the technical infrastructure to support algorithmic trading in crypto. But because we are a venture-backed company, our goal is to make the biggest impact possible. And we observed that everyone who was trying to build trading bots in crypto, whether it was ourselves, other funds, and even individuals, were encountering the same low-level technical problems. Because in order to build a trading bot, you have to spend a lot of time developing a really seamless API connection to an exchange, and that requires a lot of work because there's a lack of standards in crypto right now. The infrastructure is very nascent, and a lot of the exchange APIs, are not very well documented. They themselves might contain bugs. And so what we found was when we built our quant fund, more than half the time we spent was really maintaining and building these low-level exchange connectors. And when we talked to other funds and other people in the industry, they were encountering the exact same problem. And so we felt that there should be a public, open platform that allows everyone to do this, and it'll just save everyone a lot of time and energy. So what we're trying to build with Hummingbot is basically an open source set of public infrastructure that anyone can use to make the process of creating trading bots more easy and simple and accessible to everyone. Why? Because we believe that algorithmic trading is a way for people to make more productive use of their token inventory. A couple years ago, I think the meme was HODL. Now there are staking, lending, so more things you can do with your crypto. But what we found is, by far and away, the highest possible return you can get is if you actually use your assets and use them to trade. In the past, that required a lot of active management. So you have to look at tons of screens and process a lot of information and really just stare at your screen all day long. But nowadays, because of technology and automation, you can actually automate a lot of the decisions that a human can do and program them into a bot that can run 24/7 while you're sleeping and still make the right decisions in the market. This is actually very much possible. Since launching Hummingbot, and even beforehand, we've met a number of people who have successfully done this. We have people in our community who have turned thousands of dollars into hundreds of thousands of dollars by running trading bots. We've met people who have quit their day jobs and now they're subsisting entirely off of the bots that they're running, so they're free to do other things in their spare time. And even our CTO, Martin, the reason why he got into crypto was he was a machine learning engineer at Apple. He applied some of his experience to build a machine learning based trading bot for Bitcoin, and that bot did so well that he was inspired to quit his job and get into crypto full time. So having these examples out there really showed us that it is possible to build trading bots to basically to make more productive use of what you have. Obviously, it's not for everyone because it does require a little more active participation than something like staking or lending. But we feel for people who want to roll up their sleeves, really, do some research and really figure out how to, find something, find a strategy that works. We believe it's by far and away the highest potential amount of return that you can earn by running crypto. Obviously, this is, as a disclaimer, I should mention this first. Trading is inherently risky activity. Just because you automate something doesn't mean that the risks go away. So we do think that users should pay attention to both the risks of trading, as well as to make sure that they themselves are following the right local laws and jurisdictions that they encounter. But overall, in general, we believe that the reason why we're doing Hummingbot and the reason why it has potential is because it gives people something else to do with the crypto other than HODL or staking and lending. Our vision is that one day anyone in the world can have access to algorithmic trading as a way to make something productive with their inventory and with their money. So with that, let me turn to the second question, which is what is market making? So market making was one type of algorithmic trading strategy. We think that this is very well suited for individual users, and the reason we think that is because what market making actually is the placement of offers to buy and sell something in the market. This is actually much easier for me to illustrate than it is to just tell you. So let me show an example of what market making looks like. So let's go to Binance over here. This is the Binance website. So let's go to, so this is the Bitcoin US dollar trading pair. And you can see that there's an active order book over here. And each of these orders is essentially a market maker that is posting offers to buy and sell on the order book. So typically you post 2 offers, one to buy something and one to sell something. And as the market price changes, so you can see how the market price is going to change, then the market maker essentially maintains a spread, which is a distance between where they're buying and where they're selling, and they want to maintain that spread as the price changes and adjust that spread and their orders as the market price adjusts. Now you can see that the way that a market maker makes money is by setting the buy price lower than the sell price. And if you assume that the markets are kind of like go this way, then on average you're buying lower than you're selling. So over time, you make a small amount with every trade. Now this does carry risks. So one risk is that the market moves sharply upwards, and then you end up selling when the market's going up. The other risk is that when the market tanks, you're buying more of this asset as a price goes down. So those are that's probably the general risk with market making. And in addition, obviously, in order to do this, you actually have to hold both the asset that you're buying, selling. This is Bitcoin. We call this the base asset in market making, and you also have to hold some quantity of this other asset here, which is called a quote asset. This is the asset that you're exchanging in exchange for what you're buying and selling. So because you have to hold roughly equal quantities of these 2 assets, your biggest risk is how comfortable you are holding these. Obviously, Bitcoin and USDT are 2 very well-known cryptocurrencies. But if you're holding something that's much more a much smaller token, then that's you need to be comfortable holding that inventory. Obviously, with one, we know the team very well, and that's why we chose to work with them, because we believe they're one of the most legitimate projects out there. They just launched on mainnet today, so we believe that they are a legitimate utility token that the users can trade in market making. So kind of going back, let's see. So another thing with market making is that it does require an automated computer program, because you can see how quickly this market changes. And if you're trying to kind of do this manually by posting a limit buy and limit sell, the human just can't react fast enough to accommodate how quickly the market changes. And that's why having a bot really makes market making much easier and much more automated. So if you go back to the next question, how does market making help the Harmony protocol and the one token? Well, the main question here is what is, for the first question I think we have to answer is what is liquidity? Liquidity is basically a market that is high volume with a low bid-ask spread, which is the distance between the buy price and sell price, and finally has a lot of depth, which means that you can buy and sell a large quantity of something without moving the market. Why is liquidity important? First of all, it offers a great experience for people who want to buy and sell something. Imagine if there was no market makers at all. Maybe there's only 1 or 2 orders on the order book. If you come in and if the distance between the buy and sell price is really high, like 10%, it basically means that when you buy something, you're paying 10% more than the price you can sell it for, and no one likes to buy something and lose 10% right off the bat, and that tends to discourage traders. So the lower the bid-ask spread, the lower the better experience traders have, and the more they're willing to participate. Second of all, having a deep market, that's needed for larger investors like hedge funds or larger institutional investors like family offices. So having a lot of depth, it really allows participation from institutions, because if there's no depth and a large trade might move the market by 5-10%, that's called slippage and something that institutions really look out for. Number three, there's been a lot of academic research that goes into how liquidity impacts prices of assets. So maybe I'll post something on the comments here, but generally a lot of studies in the equities world have found that liquid stocks tend to trade at a higher price compared to less liquid stocks. And so we feel that's probably similar for all assets in general. And just more practically, currently in the market, token projects and also exchanges are paying market makers. So market makers are hedge funds. There's relatively few of them, and because of that, they can charge a lot of money. So for a token project like Harmony, especially for the smaller ones, it's really hard to pay market makers potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for their services. And we believe that a more decentralized model is possible. And so that's a good segue to talk about the final question in our intro part, which is how does the One Makers program work, and how does it benefit both Harmony and also the people who are participating. So the first thing I would have to say is that this is very much a grand experiment for both us and for Harmony. To my knowledge, no one has really enabled kind of like a community-based market-making effort before. We're both Harmony and we are approaching this as an experiment. We're going to run it for at least 3 months, and every month we'll try to tweak it to make sure that the rules and the goals are actually driving the right behaviors and it's delivering the right outcomes for Harmony in terms of number of users, volume, and other quantifiable metrics. But the general way it works is that essentially Harmony has set hard quantifiable metrics based on how much volume like the users of Hummingbot will be generated. So on Monday, you'll be able to download Hummingbot, register for the bounty program, and based on how much volume of filled orders that you do on the one token, you'll receive a rebate based on that. In addition, we have a few tiers based on how much progress you make. We have a beginner tier, a pro tier, and finally an ultimate tier, where based on kind of how much volume you do, you can earn these tiered rewards. And I think the ultimate one is a kind of like a grand prize for the most active market maker in the community. And so what we do as Hummingbot is, because users who are earning these bounties are using the Hummingbot software client, that allows us to track how much volume they're doing, and most importantly, verify and authenticate that trading volume against our own exchange data feeds to make sure that the volume generated is real and it's not doing something malicious like wash trading or spoofing or other types of market manipulative practices. We believe that while market making is important, we recognize that there are certain bad actors out there, and our goal is to help Harmony get liquidity in the right way, and that's why we're stressing compliance above all. So now I'll kind of do the second part of the presentation, which is about how to actually get started and install Hummingbot. So for this one, I'm gonna kind of like do a bit more like a screen focus mode. So you guys don't have to look at my face anymore, at least for the time being until Q&A. But please feel free to leave comments and questions in the comment box. And after this part, I'll go back and answer your questions. So for this part here, first we're going to walk through how to install Hummingbot. I'll take you through the cloud-based Docker installation procedure, primarily because we believe that running a Docker image in the cloud is the most efficient and also the most reliable way to run Hummingbot. And with advanced cloud computing nowadays, it's actually much simpler and relatively inexpensive, even for individuals. After that, I'll set up and configure a basic market making strategy, and we'll kind of go into that. And finally, we'll go into a little more advanced market making strategy that we call cross exchange market making. So let's get started. So I'm going to move this kind of like Chrome window over the left-hand side, and so this is my terminal window on the right, and it helps to have kind of like both screens open at the same time. So first of all, from installation perspective, the first thing is to look at the Hummingbot documentation. So we try to spend a lot of time on documentation because we know that people have different systems. They have different types of environments. They want to install Hummingbot in different ways. So we try to develop documentation which kind of covers lots of the potential problems or issues that people face. So let's get started with installation. Let's see, go here, installation. And so we're going to install Hummingbot in the cloud. So we're going to pick this install in the cloud option here. And our platform will be AWS. So I'm going to move my AWS window over here. So this is after I've logged in. So let me go to the management console, so which matches this screen here. And so the first thing I'll do is I'm going to launch a virtual machine, which is this thing right here. Next, I will pick the Ubuntu server 18.04, which is right here. And then the T2 micro option, which is free tier eligible, pre-selected. This one works. And the reason this is fine is because Hummingbot, while it is optimized for speed and performance, it actually doesn't require a lot of compute resources. So even the basic T2 micro instance, which is eligible for free tier in Amazon, works fine for Hummingbot. So now we're going to click review and launch, and then launch. So now we're going to create a key pair. So the key pair is essentially your key into your Amazon instance. So you should absolutely keep it safe. We're going to create a new key pair here. So I'm going to create this called Hummingbot. I'm going to call it 4 because I have a bunch of Hummingbot key pairs already. So I downloaded this key pair, and then I can launch these instances. Great. So now this instance that I've just created is about to launch. And so I can view its status by clicking View Instances. So yeah, it takes about a minute or so to instantiate and finish the status checks before we can really go into it and start doing stuff. In the meantime, you might notice I'm also running a Harmony Foundation node as well. I think one of the best things about Harmony is that they make it possible for anyone to run a node. Because they are a sharded blockchain, I think they're the first sharded proof-of-stake blockchain. They require lots of decentralized sets of nodes in order to provide security and consensus for each of the shards. But what's cool about that, in my opinion, is it gives everyone the chance to run a node and earn earn one tokens through proof of stake. It's just really cool because I think that a lot of other blockchains, they restrict the number of node operators, or you have to delegate to some node operator or to some validator. And as an individual, it's hard to get direct access to helping deliver consensus. And so having the ability with Harmony is just a really unique aspect of their blockchain. And so, I think Harmony, I think right now it's still they've still limited the number of foundation nodes, but I think they're going to open up soon. And I would encourage anyone to, really take a stab at it, because it's really a very similar process to what we just showed you in terms of setting up an instance to run Hummingbot. You require a slightly larger instance, but in terms of setup process, it's relatively straightforward as well. So I think we'll just give it another 10 to 20 seconds. It should be then initializing here. There it goes. Okay, so now that it's finished initializing, now we can actually install Docker and run Hummingbot on this new instance that we have just created. So to do that, I'm going to go to the instructions for install Hummingbot. Let's skip to here. And we're going to install the Docker image on the Linux machine that we just created on AWS. So the first thing that we need to do is connect to our server. This was actually in the other directions. We're going to connect to it. And the first thing we do is we're going to this key pair that we just downloaded, which is now sitting in my downloads folder, we need to change the permissions on it so that it's accessible by AWS. So that's this command right now. So that. And now I will SSH into the server from my home computer. Great, now I'm in. And now I can continue to install Hummingbot from Docker. So this part here is just simply running each of these commands on your server. And so I'll just do that. And finally, this last one is basically just allows me to, not have to append every command with the word sudo, and that requires me to actually exit and log out and log back in before I can do stuff again. So there you go. Great. So now that we have Docker installed on our AWS Linux machine, now we can install the Docker image for Hummingbot. So the nice thing about Docker is that there's a bunch of dependencies that you have to install when you install from source, and Docker pre-packages all of them into a single image. So all you have to do is pull the image and you're set. So the first thing we'll do is to create a directory to house everything Hummingbot related on this instance. So I'm calling this the folder called My Instance 1, and I will go into that directory. Next, I am creating two folders, one to hold Hummingbot configuration files, and the second one to hold the log files generated by Hummingbot. So we just create those two directories. And then finally, I will pull the latest Docker image for Hummingbot from Docker. I'm going to change it to the development branch because this is a branch we're going to release on Monday that contains the bounty registration, and other good stuff. So here, what it's doing is basically looking for the latest image from Docker, downloading it, extracting it, and when it's done, it will start Hummingbot. Yeah, and I should say the reason we like this process, and we recommend this path for all users, is that it kind of standardizes the experience. So regardless if you're running Windows, Mac, Linux, or some other type of environment, if you run Docker on a Linux machine in the cloud, it makes this installation process virtually the same across different environments. So I know a lot of users have said installing Hummingbot, especially on a Windows machine, can be quite troublesome. So for Windows users especially, we recommend using Docker and using the cloud whenever possible. Great. So after Docker finished, Hummingbot has installed, and this is kind of what the starting screen looks like. I'm going to make this full screen to show off Hummingbot ASCII art a little more clearly. So the first thing I should mention is that to register for the Bounty program, basically there's a command called Bounty, and you can just type Bounty register in order to register for the Bounty program. I do see there's some questions on the YouTube channel. I'm gonna try to answer as many questions as I can after the bulk of the webinar. But I want to make sure that for the users who are kind of like following along right now, that we kind of get through both the pure market making strategy as well as the cross exchange marketing strategy before we're doing Q&A. So the first thing with Hummingbot I should say is that there's a bounty register command. This is really the entry point for users next week when they start running Hummingbot. So basically, when you register, there's a set of questions that you have to answer. First, you have to agree to some of the terms and conditions of the program. We do collect data for this program, and we need this data in order to verify that the trading volume submitted by users is actually accurate, so that everyone has a chance to earn the same bounty payouts, and we deliver a fair experience for users. And finally, we do ask the users maintain a certain balance in their Ethereum wallet, and the reason we're doing that is to prevent spam attacks where users can kind of like create a bunch of different accounts and take bounties which are meant for everyone else. Sorry, 1 second. I'm just getting my Ethereum wallet address here. MetaMask is not cooperating right now. Okay. It's nice. There'll be too much going on in my system with the streaming server. So okay. And then finally, use email address. Great. And okay. So this is not going to work right now because we start on Monday, but on Monday you'll be able to register for the bounty program. So let's actually let me gonna go back and kind of tell you what we're going to do right now. Show my face again. So let's see here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is configure a market making strategy. And the type of market making strategy we're going to configure is what we call pure market making. So the first thing is we recommend that anyone, before you start a bot, please read about the strategy itself. We have documentation on each of our strategies from both a theoretical perspective, what all the configuration parameters mean, and so even though algo trading, we do try to make it as accessible as possible, you still have to understand what you're doing. And so we highly recommend that anyone involved you want to, at the very least, read our documentation to make sure you understand what you're doing. And so, for instance, let's take a look right now at what that looks like. So if you look at this Hummingbot, our Hummingbot documentation page. Close your windows here. Yeah, my computers are getting overloaded here. I'm gonna close some stuff. Okay. All right. So the strategies file. There's a pure market making strategy page which describes, both from a theoretical perspective how it works, as well as what the configuration options mean, and what all of the configuration parameters mean here as well. So let's get into it. First, we will do the config option, and of the strategies, we have a few different strategies. We'll pick the pure market making one. We will create our config file, and the first one is we're going to do the trading pair of Binance, and so when you pick Binance, you can pick any trading pair that exists in Binance. We integrate with all of them. For the purpose of this demo, I'm actually going to do the Ether to USDT pair, and the reason we're doing this is really for legal compliance reasons. Being a U.S. company, we want to make sure that anything we show publicly, it's we're doing on utility tokens, and we believe that Harmony's one token is one as well, but I think from a pure compliance perspective, based on the advice of our lawyers, we're going to show the Ether USDT pair, but what I'm trying to show you is applicable across any trading pair on Binance. So let's go with ETH USDT. For now, we're going to just do single orders on each side, though advanced users can do multiple staggered orders on each side of the order book. So how far away from mid price do you want to place the first bid order? So this is basically the spread is what we're putting in. So we'll put 0.01 on the bid side and 0.01 on the ask side. So essentially that means that the distance between our two orders will be a total of 2%. How fast do you want to cancel and place bid and asks? We default to 60. I'm going to show you 10 seconds just to kind of really see some more activity, though we would typically recommend a higher refresh rate because you want to give the market kind of time to hit your bids and asks rather than having to change them all the time. How much per order? So I'm going to do 0.1 ETH, which is about $30 right now. And finally, the Binance API key. This part I'm going to switch over to my face so that you guys don't see what my Binance API keys are. In general, one reason why we designed Hummingbot to open source and a local client is to ensure that we never see people's API keys or private keys. All that is maintained by the user. However, that also means it's up to you to make sure that you're retaining that information securely and safely. So what I'm doing now is I already have my Binance API key and secret, and I'm just going to copy them over from another instance of Hummingbot that I have locally. Great. So now that I've put in my Binance API key and secret, now the next question is, what Ethereum node would you like your client to connect to? If you're trading with Binance, you actually don't need an Ethereum node. Right now, this is a bit of a legacy code from our previous, kind of like our previous stack. So this question we will kind of get rid of it eventually. Right now, you do have to put in a node. However, we do make it pretty easy for you to get a node. There's actually, you can get one for free. We show you how to do this in this section here, which is getting a free Ethereum node on Infura. It's a 5-minute process to get a node. It's very straightforward, and it's free. So I'm going to take my Infura node that I've created earlier and just plug that into Hummingbot. Finally, we also have a stop loss option. So this allows you to kind of turn the bot off if it's not doing something that you want to do, but we're not going to use it for now. So now that we've done all that, we can start market making. And so for this one, what I like to do is run Hummingbot in a side-by-side window with the exchange website right next to it. And that kind of allows me to see what's going on and make any adjustments if needed. So let's pull up the Ether USDT order book. Okay. All right. So, and let's start market making. So there's an initial setup part where Hummingbot is connecting to the network. It's connecting to the Binance order books. It's fetching the data, and then that after it does that, then it'll submit some orders. Oh, there it goes. So you can see the buy and sell offers right here. So right now, it's buying at 305. It's selling for 311. So now it just canceled and adjusted again. So now it's 305, 311, 55. This depth view on Binance is a good way to show where your orders are sitting relative to the order book. So you can see right now, my orders aren't even on the screen because it's like 305 to 310, 311, but this market is so tight that everything's trading in like 308 to 309 range. So clearly I need to set lower spreads if I wanted to have a chance at actually trading. So there actually are only 2 orders. Sometimes the UI gets a little confused and has 3 orders here, but that's more of a UI thing than anything else. So first what we'll do is stop the bot, and I'm going to make a few adjustments. The first thing, I'm going to change the order refresh rate to something a little bit longer, mostly because right now my computer is under a lot of bandwidth pressure, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on because everything's refreshing a little more slowly. But more importantly, we're going to configure the spread to something much tighter, so we actually have a realistic shot at getting some orders filled. So let's try. We tried 0.01 before. Let's do 0.01, which is this is basically let's see, 0.01, and config ask threshold, and also do 0.01 here. And so this is basically setting a 20 basis point, a 20 basis point spread between the two levels. Okay. Okay, so I do have open orders. Let's see. Oh, there they are. Takes a little while to show up. So you can see now my orders are closer. You can see there's one here at 308.5. Let me show this a bit more. And then my other sell orders over here, 309.4. Here's 308.51. These I think these levels, if we let them kind of sit around for a little while, we should get some fills. And generally speaking, as a market maker, you want to start wide when you're first starting off, because the narrower the spread, the less money you're making on each trade, even though you're trading more often. So here in Hummingbot, you can use the status command to see what's going on with your respective buy orders and sell orders. So still have those two orders outstanding, and we can also run the history command to see what orders we've actually placed. So we actually have placed a couple of orders. We've bought at 308.69, and we sold at 308.92. So we made a couple cents here. And so this is kind of the general practice of our market making. If you're not making a ton of money on each trade, you're really hoping to, as the market kind of moves around, you want to, hopefully on average buy lower than you're selling. You make a small amount with each trade. So we just traded again. So we bought at 308.52, and hopefully we'll sell, at some price higher than that. So I would say, I think just as general advice, the market selection is a really important part of market making, because to be honest, I would say this market, this ETH/USDT market is probably too tight to kind of run a really sophisticated, run a simple market making bot like Hummingbot is for a long time. There is lots of professional market makers here, and so generally I would recommend smaller trading pairs with higher spreads, but still sufficient volume. So something with more than $1 million per day in volume, and with a higher spread is probably better, because you really have large markets like the ETH/USDT market, and then you have smaller ones maybe the one versus BNB market. And so for us smaller market makers, we don't want to compete with the big guys. We want to go where they can't play, because they're only playing the most liquid ones. So generally, smaller markets are better. Wider spreads are always better. So ideally, you want to target markets with high spread and decent volume. But let's check back in on our ETH/USDT bot. Let's see how it's doing. Okay, so far, let's see. Have we made any more trades? Yep, we made a few more trades, and so we can see that just in running this for a few minutes, so I think I've generally been buying lower than I'm selling here, which is good. So it looks like I bought a lot here, and so far I've made a small amount of profit, and maybe if I keep on running this, I will make more. But a lot of this is very much market dependent. So it's hard to really, say how much more, how well you're doing or not. So I'm going to stop this bot for a second. Stop it. Cancel orders. And now I'm going to show you a different market making strategy. So we just went over a pure market making strategy. This one is kind of like the basic canonical market making strategy. Just as a warning, Hummingbot is still in beta. The current algorithm is very simplistic. It doesn't take into account certain factors like your level of inventory, market volatility risk, which direction the market is trending, and those type of things. We've actually done that intentionally, because our goal is not to build some type of black box algorithm that people can just run. We're trying to build something that's very open, transparent, and customizable, so that users, if they want to, they can go in, add their own bells and whistles, and make the basic strategies more powerful. So with that, I'm going to show you a slightly different flavor, something that we call cross-exchange market making. So let's go to the documentation first, and let's see how it works. strategies. So you can see that we have a few different strategies here. We have this pure market making strategy that I just showed you. I'm going to show you this cross-exchange market making strategy now as well. And then we also offer an arbitrage strategy, which is quite simple. It just kind of buys low and sells high on two different markets. But cross-exchange is interesting because it's kind of like a combination of market making and arbitrage. The way it works is that there's two markets, and you can kind of make a market on one market while hedging any filled orders on the second market. And this is really good for markets where they're really trading the same type of assets, but one market is much more liquid than another. And so what you're kind of doing is you kind of bring liquidity to this maker exchange, which is the less liquid, wider spread market. And whenever your orders are filled, you go over to the taker exchange, which is a more liquid market, and you basically conduct an offsetting trade. And by doing so, you tend to take advantage of the liquidity differences between these two markets, and you're essentially capturing a risk-free arbitrage profit. So let's see how this works in Hummingbot. Once again, please read the documentation, a vital part of doing this. In addition, this is a little more complicated because now we're working with two exchanges, so make sure you have the right amount of inventory in place before starting the strategy. So let's go to Hummingbot and reconfigure our bot. Okay, so we're going to create a new strategy. That doesn't look very good. And we're actually going to use Binance for both of these pairs because what we're going to do is we're going to market make on a less liquid stablecoin pair. So I think we'll pick this one. And we are going to use the USDT market as the taker exchange. And I'll show you in a second why we're doing that. So there's a bunch of other options here. You can kind of just default them. So before we start this bot, let me actually kind of show you why this strategy kind of makes sense. So let's go over to Binance, and you can see that the USDT ETH market is very liquid, right? So the spread between the bid price and ask price in this market is it's like 5 cent difference. So like as a market maker, just market making on this market, it's very hard to actually make a lot of money on each trade because you're competing with lots of other market makers here. However, you might notice that in Binance, there's a bunch of different markets under different stablecoins. So let's pick one. Let's pick the TUSD market here. So the TUSD market is significantly wider than the other one. So you can see right now there's a 60 cent difference in terms of these levels, and we can even explore some of the other markets. Like PAX is probably even wider than that. Let's see. Yep. Yeah. So PAX looks like it's also like a 70 cent difference as well. So since the spreads are about the same, it does look like depth is not really there in this market. So really, what you want to factor in when picking markets are the bid-ask spread, which is the difference between these two levels. You want to look at the volume, so higher volume is always better, and then you also want to look at depth. So in this market here, how much ETH is there? Looking at it looks like there's like not a lot of ETH in this like initial range here, which is good for a market maker. So let's actually use PAX. Actually, no. I think we probably picked TUSD. So we'll use TUSD as the maker exchange. Okay. So let's see. Let me just before we do this, let me just switch my face again, and I'm just make sure I actually have enough TUSD here to actually do something interesting. 1 second. Sorry, my computer's running super slowly because it's running like video streaming software, Binance, terminal, and a bunch of other stuff. So, unfortunately, it's a bit slow right now, but we'll try to make it happen. I think we'll have to edit this part out of the recording. So I realized I didn't acquire any TUSD before I started this, so I'm just going to Binance and just buying a little bit of TUSD to go and do this demo. So 1 second, please. Sorry, this is extremely slow right now. Okay, I think I have finally managed to buy a small amount of TUSD, which was incredibly onerous because my computer is like, god awful slow right now. But got it started, so let's switch back to the screen. All right, so I think we're ready to start. Basically, we configured, just as a reminder, we've configured the bots so that what it's doing is it's going to make a market on the ETH TUSD pair, and is going to hedge any orders in the more liquid ETH USDT pair on Binance. So let's start it off. And so you can also hit Control S to status. So there's a bunch of warnings here. You can generally ignore these warnings. We're kind of like erring on the side of full transparency, but generally speaking, a lot of these are kind of like like warnings and checks related to like not enough balances, which I just addressed, and some of this other stuff is related to like other issues that aren't really that important to running the bot. So, okay. So let's see. So right now it says the profitability is we can make like a small amount by making a bid on Binance on the first market, and so right now I think our profitability right now is probably a little too low given the liquidity of this particular market. So let me stop this bot, and I'm going to configure the minimum profitability setting so that it's is lower and allows us to actually do this. So it looks like something like 0.1% would work. So let me try that. Actually, I think 0.02% should actually work. So let's do that, and we'll start that again. So right now, so 4, 1. And so one reason why these spreads might seem a little wider than what you might notice given these kind of prices is because we do take transaction fees into account. So this profitability rate includes the 10 basis points of fees that Binance charges on both the maker and the taker side. So that's why it's not putting any trades in right now. So let's actually change that a bit more lower. So this should definitely result in some trades, or some orders, I should say. Okay. Unfortunately, it looks like the markets aren't fully cooperating with us right now. It looks like there's just not a lot of liquidity. This market is just probably a bit too liquid to run this particular strategy on. But generally speaking, the just explains a bit more. Actually, let me try making this market do something here. So you can see why this is a little more advanced of a strategy compared to pure market making. I'm just for for this demo, I just set a really low min profitability. It's just like basically not making any money at all. And let's see if it actually places some orders for us. Oh, so it looks like we have some. Here we go. We have some one order. Okay, I think we actually are running into a bit of trouble here. I think sometimes we have issues when the spread is too low. So we have to change this bit. But I think since we're kind of running out of time, maybe I'll try to cover this particular strategy in a separate webinar because I do want to take some time for questions. So let me actually take a look at the YouTube live stream, and we'll kind of I'll try to answer whatever questions that people have posted there right now. Okay. All right. first question: can we use this bot to pump and dump? We do not have a pump and dump strategy. However, our code base is open source. It's anyone can fork it and do with it what you will. So if you want to download our software, create a pump and dump bot on your own, well, that's your choice. And please, our advice is please respect your local laws and regulations of your local jurisdiction. Can you use the bot currently? Yes, you can install it. We've launched about 2 months ago. We try to do a release every 2 weeks, so we're doing one on Monday. So the bot is still beta. There are still bugs, as you probably noticed, but we have our team is diligently focused on improving the bot, making it more powerful, configurable, and bug-free on a weekly basis. So someone had a question. Let's see. Binance limits the option to trade with 1 to BTC and US-backed coins, no Ether. Does that mean it will just use Ether if no ETH is being traded? So the pairs that Binance makes available are 1 to Bitcoin, Binance Coin, and their different US dollar stablecoins. So those are basically the markets that you can trade one on right now. So there is no ETH market. However, we're doing the rewards payouts in ETH primarily because ETH is a utility token, and we can distribute that really in a compliant way. Any tips for finding coins with high spreads? There may be some resources out there in terms of the coin ranking sites. I haven't actually seen any. However, generally speaking, the smaller trading pairs. So, for example, something with a US dollar, any trading pair that's that's not USDT, for example, or Bitcoin, is probably gonna have a wider spread. And of course, the smaller volume tokens as well should have a wider spread. One thing I found is helpful is, especially there's market events which results in higher volatility, and so those are great situations for market makers because you have both a combination of higher spreads and high volume. So, for example, when the market's either going up a lot or going down a lot, or when there's an initial exchange offering right after a new token's listed, there's always kind of a wave there, and that type of fervor is really good for market makers because you get both high volume and high spread. See, does that increase the security risk associated because the algo is open? So a lot of people ask us that, and we believe that we're not designing something for you to just push a button and run. As you can see, there's a bunch of different configuration parameters that the users have to input. Most prominently, which trading pair, what's your spread, and what's your size. And in addition, we do expect that users will add their own tweaks into the strategy code. For example, you may want to take into account if you have a view that the market's going to go up. You can easily incorporate that view by setting a tighter bid spread and a wider ask spread. That means that you're more incentivized to buy than to sell, which in a rising market should be helpful. Similarly, if you believe that the market's going down, you can set a lower ask spread and a wider bid spread, which means you're more likely to sell than to buy. And so, because of these user parameters, we believe that there's just a lot of different options, and it's hard for people to basically crowd each other out by running the same thing. But this is something we're watchful for, and we believe that we can add more parameters to strategies or add more markets if that turns out to be an issue as our user base grows. Okay, should we just ignore all the warnings? I would say you can ignore warnings if it doesn't seem to actually impact the performance of your bot. This is something that we're actually exploring right now, how to show the right level of detail to users, and not notify users about stuff that doesn't really matter that much. We're kind of erring on the side of full disclosure right now because we want to make sure that we're fixing any bugs that are arising. But over time, you should see kind of the warnings decrease as we kind of like fix bugs and we hide some stuff that frankly doesn't impact performance. Why did you add our IP into the bounty program? So to be honest, the main reason we track IP is for two reasons. The first is to track where people are based. That's really just to kind of like understand where our user base are from just an understanding perspective. The second is to prevent spammers. So if we notice the same person, same IP has created 20 different accounts, and they're all they've all earned like a single basic bonus without going any more, that's time for us to investigate further, because we want to make sure that because there is kind of like the initial bonus for the first 300 signups. We want to ensure that as many of those 300 are available to actual people, and you don't have like a few kind of like folks who are taking that bonus and not allowing anyone else to earn it. Let's see. Another question: can you add an algorithm that will make a profit for market makers? So we don't guarantee profits. That's by far and away, I would say there is always a risk with trading. This is different from a more passive type of activity. So users are responsible for understanding the risks involved in trading. Having said that, we do think that market making and arbitrage are more effective strategies for individuals than something like technical analysis. And the reason is because, unlike technical analysis, market making and arbitrage are positive expectation trading strategies. What that means is, given that you make a trade, all things be equal, your expected profit is positive. And it's positive because of the nature of these strategies. In arbitrage, you're basically watching two different markets, waiting for opportunities when they dislocate so that you can buy low and sell high. So you may rarely trade, but when you do, you're expected to make money. Similarly, when you're a market maker, you set a buy offer and a sell offer. Your buy offer is always lower than your sell offer. So as the market kind of goes like this, you should be buying low and selling high, and therefore you have a positive expected value. In contrast, something like technical analysis, your job is to predict where the market goes, right? So if you assume the markets are efficient, the only way that you can predict where the market goes is to be smarter than the market itself. So that's why the successful TA, the technical analysis algos out there really require a lot of backtesting, which is basically machine learning. It's using data to try to predict the future from the past. That's something that we have a lot of experience with, given kind of our backgrounds, but we don't think that like a lot of people have that kind of experience. And so if we're building something that we want everyone to use, we wanted to start with strategies which were positive expectation, and people could run without having lots of without having a PhD or having to understand how machine learning works. Having said that, we will be adding more strategies later on, and including technical analysis and things like backtesting and so forth, which will help people really add more value and understand how the strategies work. What issues do you foresee with the average Joe in the U.S., including Binance's September exodus and any tools for tracking important trades? So in general, Hummingbot is software. So we equated something like Bloomberg, right? So Bloomberg doesn't place any restrictions on who can use Bloomberg. So anyone can get a Bloomberg terminal. But in order to use Bloomberg to trade on exchange, you have to be able to actually access that exchange, and you have to be eligible to trade on it. So in the same vein, we connect Hummingbot to many different exchanges, and it's up to the users to maintain their eligibility to trade on that exchange. So right now, Binance still, I believe, allows U.S. citizens to trade on the exchange, but I think they are going to close it off in some time. And so I believe we're going to integrate into the Binance US exchange as well. And our goal is to integrate with every exchange so that anyone in the world can use Hummingbot to trade on whatever exchange is available to their jurisdiction. Another question is, can you do this on Uniswap or Bancor? Not quite yet, mainly because we haven't built out integrations to those automatic market makers. However, it's definitely on a roadmap. We published a blog post about a month ago that talked about comparing Hummingbot to Uniswap. We know both the Uniswap and the Bancor teams really well, and we're really excited to be able to integrate with them. There's a few kind of like other exchanges we have ahead of them, mainly because our users have told us they wanted that. We maintain a roadmap page on our documentation site, which lists the different exchanges that we're going to integrate with, and we expect to get to Uniswap and Bancor in the third quarter of this year. Will the ETH wallet have to have ETH in it for verification, or would any token be valid? Great question. We are going to look for ETH specifically. The threshold is 0.05 ETH, which is about $15 right now, and you'll have to maintain that balance in your ETH wallet in order to actually collect and earn bounty rewards. We picked that level because we felt it was small enough to essentially allow access to everyone, but not so low that it kind of like encourages spammers to create a bunch of wallets and earn the rewards that should be available to everyone. So hopefully it's not too much of a deterrent for people to use it, but if you think it is, please let us know and give us feedback. Great. So the last question, I think I've gone through all of them. Last question is it possible to use this bot for trading on I guess their fiat and stock exchanges? That's actually a great question to end with, because obviously not yet. The exchanges we support are all crypto. However, we do believe that crypto is kind of like the predecessor. It's like it shows what normal finance will be in the future. And so one hallmark of crypto is direct market access, the ability for anyone to place and take orders directly off of the order book. And that's actually what enables market making, arbitrage, and these strategies that Hummingbot focuses on. Because in stock markets like NASDAQ or the NYSE, only a few designated firms can actually place orders on the order book. And so that's why when you trade on a brokerage like Robinhood, you can't do market making because a market maker is actually paying Robinhood for your order. There's something called payment for order flow. And so they're actually paying Robinhood for the privilege of taking order. And that's because they're capturing all the market making and arbitrage opportunities out there in the markets. So we believe that as finance generally opens up, stock exchanges, foreign currency exchanges will also start to open up their APIs and allow people to place orders directly on the order book. And so hopefully in the long term, we'd like Hummingbot to be integrated into all types of exchanges, whether it's a crypto exchange, a stock exchange, or an FX exchange. But we're starting with crypto because we think that's where the most opportunities are for users, and we expect to focus on crypto for the foreseeable future. So one clarification: the ETH staking in the wallets, it's not a transactional thing. Basically, you just need to maintain at least 0.05 ETH inside a wallet in order to earn bounty rewards. If your amount drops below that, you'll still have the bounty rewards accumulated up until that point, but you won't be able to earn new rewards, based on your volume until you bring that level back up to higher than 0.05 ETH. And again, the only reason we're doing that is to prevent spam attacks, basically to prevent people from getting rewards that should be available to everyone. And so all you have to do is just maintain that relatively small amount in your wallet. Finally, are the bounty reports stacking or the highest your payouts? They are stacking, so you can earn the beginner bonus, the pro bonus, and the ultimate bonus if you do a really good job. And I think that we're going to be making changes to this, so we'll have a leaderboard a few weeks into the program. We may also do kind of like some side quests or other fun things, just kind of like create some competition out there for everyone. But once again, this is an experiment. I think this is the first time that someone's really tried to do a community-based market making effort, and so we hope to iterate and improve on the initial experience as the program goes. And so I just want to say before I go, I just want to say thank you to the Harmony team. We've known them for a long time. We decided to partner with them for this because we know that they're a very legitimate project, it's also a testament to them that they embarked on this experiment with us, instead of going the more traditional route. So with that, I'm gonna end it here. It's been actually an hour and 20 minutes. My daughter is waiting for me to make her for dinner, so I need to take care of her. But thank you everyone for paying attention, and I hope everyone learned a lot from this. Great. Thanks a lot. Bye.